Hey guys, JB from Store Keys, and we have a special video here today. MMRLightning took about an hour of his time to help develop some tips and tricks for Zap Lalo. So take a look at his planning. If you want to talk about planning, MMR, he's got it down. Definitely a very strategic player. Then we'll take a look at a couple of his replays and add some commentary and basically kind of an interview style video from me to MMR, asking him some questions to help all of us understand how to continue to get better with Zap Lalo.
When I first looked at number three, remember, I had the advantage that I knew where the Teslas were. The Tesla farm there was right by the gold mine, if you remember, right by the mortar
Mm-hmm.
um, down there. So that was kind of nice. Even if I didn't know where it was, my plan was probably going to be similar, but I may have had to improvise because my king may not have made it all the way there. So I was able to set the funnel early, knowing where the Tesla farm is. So that was number one. Number two, I noticed that their invis tower, it didn't cover the town hall. And because it didn't cover the town hall, this was an easy one for my queen to snipe. It was just one tile too far. And then, looking at the top, the bottom right where the town hall compartment is, there really wasn't much damage for my queen. It could handle the multi cannon and the multi mortar, not a problem. And then so I just had to make sure that the queen went in that compartment
Mm-hmm.
for the town hall. Now the flame flinger value, it didn't have the greatest value at the top left, only because normally I would love to get an Inferno or a Scatter, but with the Tesla farm being on the southwest side, I figured, you know what, I'll just take the free defenses up there because after it takes it, I knew it was going to make its way to the ricochet cannon to help out my king. I was like, okay, at least that'll be some value there. I also, the other thing I saw, but I didn't act on, the very top archer, the very top air defense there, it had no defenses. I could have sniped it with a archer tower, but the reason I didn't, I need my lava hound to swing across because I knew I was coming in from the bottom side. So when I'm looking at these defenses, like I'm trying to pick off what I can take with as little value as possible. And that's why even the cannon at the top left, I figured I'd put a loon on it and a minion, where I had placed my flame flinger,
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that if I took that out, the flame flinger could make its way quicker to the ricochet cannon and then help out my king. And then for this one, it was an easy zap value because the Inferno Tower typically is the one thing I want to take, and I knew my loons would be hitting that Inferno Tower, the one where I zapped. I knew they would be going there last. And so I was like, okay, I'll take out that one plus the expo so that I know that my flame flinger can continue and get the value and not get destroyed and get wrecked. So that was my plan. The only thing that I think didn't go too well according to plan, that when I was placing the loons in the middle of the attack, the invis tower directed my loons all the way to the to where the archer queen is, and because of that, like it didn't create great pathing, but I had so many loons I didn't think it mattered at that point. So even though I was kind of going against a sweeper a little bit, it didn't matter too much. Plus with the RC, so that was kind of my plan, and that's how I broke down this base. Did you have any questions on how I tackled this one?
Well, that is a lot of planning. That's awesome. One thing I've noticed, like initially when you shared your army with me in the beginning, you had three hounds. In the last few attacks, I think you've been running two hounds and more balloons. Is there like a reason, or like did you just kind of feel like you needed more balloons and less hounds, or?
No, that's a good observation. Yeah, normally I run three hounds, but I've noticed that in the last couple, even legends attacks and war attacks, my third lava hound isn't popping. There isn't that much damage. So I figured, you know what, with the more loons, I can get more defenses down. And this one, specifically this base, the reason I did it was one way to funnel the cannon. Sorry, let me mute this. Let me call them right back. One, so the multi-mortar cannon, if you when you watch the replay, you'll notice that I had to put 4 loons to take it down, which was bad calculation on my part. I forgot how many it took, so I put 2 originally for that cannon right by the wizard tower, right by the bottom there, if you remember when you play it, and then it didn't work. So then I had to put 2 more. Originally, my plan was at least 2 there to take it out, And then I was thinking also possibly using more loons to help the king out in case it was in trouble. So, but you're right. Like I just started using more loons because I actually think it's more effective for me to use two hounds versus the third one. But in Legends, I typically use the third lava hound because I need it to pop to help with the cleanup because I'm so slow in deploying my loons because I want to make sure everything else goes right first. So I time fail a lot in Legends, but in War, if I can plan it well, I typically don't time fail as much.
That's why I like the Lalo because it's so like I wouldn't say it's not easy to plan, but if you can come up with a plan and tackle each compartment kind of almost on its own, it makes life a lot easier. Legends League, I'm way too slow at planning, so like running Lalo Legends for me is like awful. I don't know.
I, I time fail a ton in Legends League. I think if out of 8 attacks, I typically only 3-star about 2 or 3. And then there would typically be another 3 that I time fail on, or even, and then 2 that I completely like butcher and I get like 80% or something like that. But it's typically not because the army isn't strong enough. It's just sometimes I look at a base and I need a bit more time to think like, where can my flame flinger go? And then where can I deploy my heroes? And then of course in with the 30 seconds, sometimes like I'm not seeing the whole base. Like I only see like a half of it, and then I'm already thinking, okay, flame flamer has to go here because I'm just running out of time. So that's the only thing I for Legends. It's not super strong, and I never can make it to the top. But for War, I really like it because I like the thought that as long as things don't go completely haywire, like sometimes the king and queen don't go exactly where they want, but normally if I have enough time, I can guide them pretty well to exactly where I want them. So I hope more people in our clan use uh, lava loons too, and or zap Lalo, just because I find it a lot of fun to plan. I know not everyone likes to plan out the base, but I like to plan it and see it get destroyed. That's always nice.
Yeah, it's one
That's
of the
always
most rewarding attacks. Like obviously wrecking a base is fun, but like when you put the time into plan and then when things go right, it just I don't know, it hits different.
Yeah, and you're getting pretty good with Zap Lalo too. So the only thing I would say, like for the newer clan members that try it out, I remember when I was doing this strategy because I started off with it was the Super Wizard Blimp Lalo.
Hmm.
That was quite a while back, and that was pretty easy to use too because it was like you would send it and then there was like kind of a motion pathing. With Zap Lalo, it's a little bit more difficult. But my advice to the clan for anyone doing it is they just have to run it consistently and they're probably going to get 1 and 2 stars very common, especially with ring bases in Legends League. Like those are really tough. Like even I'm not great at those, but they just have to stick with it because after a while they get the hang of like how many loons to use, how the loons will path, what they need to freeze, when to like hit the headhunters in the warden ability. Like all that just comes with time. And even for example, like the flame finger flame flinger value um, with so one tip that I've like learned now is that if the flame flinger is set to ground and air, if there's a ricochet cannon right in front or a multi archer tower, I don't need to zap that expo because it won't reach, and I'll actually take out both like the two key defenses. And like small things like that make a huge difference when you're dissecting a base. So like for example, in this one, let's say if my so if, let's say I had deployed and I know we can't here, but in the top left, where I zapped, the buildings that I zapped,
Hmm.
had the Inferno Tower been it could have been 2 tiles closer where the builder hut is. If my flinger was coming from that direction, I actually wouldn't need to zap the expo because that was on ground and air. So I look for small things like that too, but that just comes with time. And then there's a certain angle where it's at where you can still do that and your flame flinger is safe and you'll take that out so you don't have to waste a zap on that. If that was the case, I would have probably ended up zapping the multi in the middle
Yep.
with the sweeper, and then it would have been like so easy. But so it's like things like that that I think as the clan gets better with Zap Lalo, they'll pick it up, and it's so powerful. But yeah, it definitely takes a lot of practice with this strategy because I had countless 1 stars. Yeah, but I had to, but sticking with it eventually now I'm like where I'm at, and there's still some bases I struggle with. Specifically, ring bases is very hard for me to 3-star. I don't have a great 3-star track record on any ring bases, but that's because I can't control the heroes like with as much predictability. Because as they go into the first ring, sometimes they split, and then sometimes they go together. When they go together, typically I do really well. So I've been experimenting with like putting the RC up ahead to try clear out to keep them together, but it's so hard. The unpredictability of that, it makes it difficult. The last one that's really difficult for me is typically box bases where the heroes are on the absolute edge, and it's hard for my heroes to get the town hall. The reason why is sometimes my headhunters don't kill all the heroes, and they can wreck a lava balloon attack at the end too. And this is my favorite for Lalo, where they're compartmentalized like this, because I can send my king in one, my queen in the other, my flame flinger can get probably 2 others, and then it's just Lalo through the rest. So that's why this one was such a great one. And then of course, flinger that I knew there was no Teslas there, and then I use 1 loon and the minion to clear that. And like I'll share where I
I
messed
didn't know
up
where the
too.
Teslas were. You would have probably tested more.
With a goblin, correct? With a goblin and an archer tower. And so I knew my flame flinger was safe after that multi was gone. I knew that the Teslas were there, so I didn't have to focus anymore. I just placed the archers to help start cleaning up. And you'll notice that I messed up here with the loons, right? So I put 2 and it didn't work because before the update, it was just 2 was needed. And then I didn't want to waste just 1, thinking the air defense would shoot it down. So I wasted, if I had put 3 at the beginning, I would have saved 1 extra balloon. And right after I took that mortar, I knew that once I placed my queen, I could use a wizard to funnel the other 2, that dark elixir drill and the pet thing. And so now that the queen's placed, yeah, there goes the wizard, just to make sure the queen doesn't go to the side and do something stupid. And from there, I was like, okay, that my queen's going to go in. And so it was now focus on the king to get the king into that compartment. And this one I strategically waited also for the flame flinger to hit a few on the ricochet to help out. So yes, once I knew the flame flinger was safe, I could start my Sui. Yes. Yeah. And it was really only to get the ricochet was the main thing. I didn't even plan for it to get even further in, but it did. And then it was just extra at that point.
Yeah, that ricochet is something else.
Yeah. Yeah, because the ricochet wrecks my royal champion and the spirit fox. So I always try to get rid of that with a flame flinger too, if I can, because at the back end that one normally slows me down. So here where my Lalo, like, because the invis tower it messed up a little, so my loons tried to basically go around the inferno. But yeah, with so much loons, it was completely like overpowered, and I just knew I had to get rid of the that sweeper there too, because if not, I was going to activate the ability. But I even activated it early because I was thinking, okay, this was actually pretty close to a time fail, so I almost messed up on. Thank goodness some of my loons made it for that clan castle, because I only had about like 2 seconds left or something like that. So, and then a bunch of my minions got killed by the red bombs. So, as we were going by, and I was like, oh dang it.
Now, I didn't watch for your RC deployment. Did you throw that with the Lalo, or did you hold her back to get the interior?
It goes with the Lalo, but it's slightly slower. So after I placed the loons, and then after I even froze their archer queen and the single, I specifically did that to save my lava loon. Then I placed the RC because I wanted the RC really to, in case my loons didn't path, for my RC to go after the middle inferno, which was exactly what ended up happening and needing. So the RC I typically send towards the middle, but I like it to have a few balloons with it. But the invis tower redirected all my balloons, so that was the unfortunate part. So you'll see I placed it, and then I knew that I wanted it on the left side, but that invis right there threw all of my loons to the right, because it should have just went one sweeping motion, and it would have been easy. Had 30 seconds left on the clock.
I know you put it in the notes, kind of your 12 to 15, or I think is what the number was. But do you always try to
Yes.
put a certain number with that initial push.
Yes,
Pardon?
not too much more, just because now there are exceptions, like if I'm attacking a larger side. So let's say I was going against the sweeper, then I would probably deploy like 20 in a line. But I typically like to use 12 to 15 because I know the warden ability will keep at least 10 of them alive going through the middle, or maybe even like 8 of them alive. And then the rest I just save for the outside to keep them in the middle. And it's been more beneficial because scatter shots and air bombs, if I put too many in the middle, like and they bunch up like they do now, this would be a problem at the end where it kills everything. So spreading it out has really helped.
So like looking at this base, so with your main push is obviously down there towards that bottom invis tower. And then the loons that you sprinkle in, do you try to aim for the defenses that target air first, or do you just strategically place them on defenses no matter what they target?
Good question. So in this one, after I caught the loon in my warden ability, it was just catching them on the side. So this one was I don't specifically have to target just the air ones, but I will typically put two on the defenses. The wizard tower and that ricochet need more than two, but because I knew my big group balloons was still there, I didn't worry too much. The other replay might actually be better for showing how I did it quick. This one was better for the sprinkling of the loons, to answer your question, but in this one too, very similar, like the way I approached this base, I knew where their Tesla was popping. And I still messed it up slightly, but I saw the very top, the flame flinger value there, because it was going to grab all of that, including the hero. I thought it could have taken the hero out as well, because the queen is stupid enough to go into the fire.
Mhm.
And I even to help it, I used a giant and two headhunters, but the headhunters failed because I think the Tesla popped, which I needed it to pop because I didn't want that to kill my flame flinger. But then I think I got unlucky that it got wrecked so fast that the queen had the smallest bit of health.
Mhm.
So same thing with the zap. I went for what my loons would have a hard time getting because
Now
I
that
knew I was going to
one,
clear the whole top.
now that one I did notice, like, so you had a certain number of zaps, and then you had a back end zap. What did you
Yes,
do there?
because so the spell tower and the spell tower I wanted to take out because that can cause like a lot of damage, and spell towers need the 4 zaps.
Right.
Now, along with the spell tower, there was the builder where the inferno is. There was a um, builder hut as well. That only needs 3 zaps, but since the spell tower needs 4, I figured I'm going to take out the spell and then save the remaining 3 because for the wizard tower. And hurt it as much as I can. It'd probably get healed up, but might as well. So yes, I did 4 at the top to take the builder hut, the spell tower, the inferno, and the scatter, and then I used the remaining 3 on that wizard tower there that's still standing because that one needs 1 more, but obviously I'm not going to carry an extra one.
So it's basically as long as you get that builder hut down early,
Yeah,
you can delay your zaps to get more value.
yes. So the spell tower was actually the most important. Typically, poisons also wreck my lava loons, but this one was a rage. So I just didn't want the queen or the inferno to be inside the rage or even the scatter. But I knew the scatter was going to die, so I was figuring, let me just kill it. Might as well. And then here, oh, I brought 2 extra giants there. You'll notice because I knew that Expo, if it targeted my queen, it would kill it, and I didn't, and I wasn't sure if my king was going to completely get the town hall. So this was kind of like a double, both of them working together to ensure the town hall goes down. But I funneled good enough to where the king was going in the middle, so yeah, I knew that it was going to get it. And right after this, um, I just started the Lalo. And so, like, into your question, so you'll see I dropped about, there should have been about, I think there's about like 12 to 15 loons here too, just because that end, there's quite a bit of defense there. I might have put a little bit more, um, but I wanted to make sure I caught all of this in my warden tower because that spell tower was starting to affect my my loons. But you'll see as the lava hounds flying through, I'm sprinkling 2 loons to keep them all into the middle. And then I had so many loons left that I'm like, I'll just sprinkle it all along the side so I can't time fail. And at this point, I just completely overwhelmed the base. That one, it had no chance.
One thing I noticed is the clan castle was taken down after the Sui once the Lalo had already started. Is that something that you don't worry about, or do you try to get the clan castle before the Lalo starts?
I haven't focused super heavily on the clan castle when it's hard to reach, only because I know as I knew what was in this clan castle, and even though this one affected it with the poison tower, sorry, with the poison spell that I have, and then the warden ability of my troops moving through, it wasn't going to be too big of a problem. I wasn't worried about this clan castle defense. I think Super Dragon would have a much more like that. That worries me a lot more because the poison spell can't kill it. But yeah, in this scenario, I didn't care. However, if it was more on the outside, I definitely would have pulled it to kill it, because that's one thing that could also throw off the attack too if they have a good clan castle. But this one, I just knew I had so many loons, it didn't bother me as much. And because I knew that when my main group was pathing through, the warden ability was going to be hitting it, so I wasn't worried.
Mm-hmm. From what I've seen, all your spell selection is pretty much the same. Do you ever bring like a skeleton spell for your Sui, or do you mainly
I
rely on giants and all that?
I will rely on a giant. I used to have a skeleton spell. It was very effective. But the thing about the skeleton spell is that if they're close to any, for example, like scatter or expo or inferno, then the skeleton spell doesn't work very well. So I used to use it a lot, and then now I really like this. I prefer if I could have three freezes. So even if I don't have to get the scatter, as long as I get an expo and an inferno and the queen, that is huge for me, because having an extra freeze, I can freeze the scatter for days. And that's really the only other thing that will take it. It's a scatter and the inferno. So yeah, this is typically almost always my spell
All
comp.
right, guys, there you have it. Special thanks to MMRLightning for taking time out of his day to walk through that. Best of luck. Let us know how you like this video. If you want us to keep doing some different videos like this in the future, we will definitely do that to help you guys out. And I know that I'm going to be using some of the content to keep improving my game as well.